I always believed that trust was the foundation of our marriage. For years, I never questioned my wife's loyalty, never felt the need to snoop around, and never once thought that the woman I loved more than anything in this world could ever betray me. We had built a life together, shared laughter, memories, and countless late-night conversations about our future. But everything changed on that one night, the night that turned my world upside down. It all started with something simple. Something so insignificant that I almost ignored it. A misplaced charger tucked under our bed, barely peeking out from beneath the covers. At first, I assumed it was mine. Maybe I had dropped it earlier and forgotten. But as I bent down to pick it up, my fingers brushed against something cold. Something small, metallic, and strangely out of place. My heart skipped a beat. This wasn't mine. It wasn't hers either. With trembling hands, I pulled it out, a tiny black device no larger than a coin, its blinking red light flashing like a silent alarm in the darkness. I stared at it for a moment, my mind racing through endless possibilities. Was this what I thought it was? A camera? No. No, it couldn't be. That was absurd. There had to be another explanation. I stood up, gripping the device tightly, my pulse hammering in my ears. My wife was in the bathroom, humming softly as she got ready for bed, completely unaware that my entire body was frozen in shock. I turned, the device over in my palm, searching for an answer, a manufacturer's label, anything that could tell me where it came from. Then, almost on instinct, I reached for my phone and connected the camera to my laptop. The moment the screen lit up, my breath caught in my throat. My hands clenched into fists, my vision blurred with rage, confusion, and absolute devastation, because what I saw on that screen was something I was never meant to see. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my entire body locked in place, my mind desperately trying to process the horror unfolding on the screen in front of me. The footage was grainy, but it was clear enough. My bedroom, my bed. But not just me and my wife. I felt my stomach twist into knots, my throat tightening as an invisible force choked the air out of my lungs. The timestamp in the corner of the screen flashed mockingly. This wasn't old footage. This was recent. Too recent. And there she was, my wife, the woman who swore to love me, to be faithful, to build a future together. But she wasn't alone. I slammed the laptop shut, my chest heaving, my pulse hammering so violently that I could feel the blood roaring in my ears. The room around me felt different now, colder, unfamiliar, like I had stepped into a twisted nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I could still hear her humming in the bathroom, completely oblivious that in the last 60 seconds, our entire marriage had crumbled into dust. A war erupted inside me. Confront her now? Demand answers? But what if she denied it? What if she had an excuse ready, a well-rehearsed lie? No, I couldn't afford to act without proof. If she could lie to me so effortlessly while sharing my bed, then she could certainly do it now. I needed more. I needed to know the full truth before I decided what to do next. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to move, my hands shaking as I picked up the tiny hidden camera again. Where had this come from? Who placed it here? My mind scrambled through 1,000 possibilities, each one more disturbing than the last. Was this her doing? Had she recorded herself willingly, or was someone else watching? The thought sent a fresh chill down my spine. I had no choice now. I had to dig deeper. With careful precision, I copied the footage to a secure drive. Then, I did what I should have done long ago. I started looking at my wife the way a stranger would. Her phone was always locked. Why? She had new lingerie that I had never seen before. She had recently started working late on weekends, the sudden urgency to go to the gym. The random work calls she would take in another room. Had I really been this blind all along? The more I thought about it, the more pieces started falling into place, forming a picture so ugly, so gut-wrenching, that I wanted to rip it apart before it fully revealed itself. And so, for the next few days, I played the role of the perfect, oblivious husband. I smiled. I kissed her. I told her I loved her, all while knowing exactly what she was doing behind my back, and all while planning the moment she would finally pay for it. From that moment forward, I no longer looked at my wife the same way. Every touch, every glance, every word that left her lips felt like a carefully rehearsed performance, a script she had perfected long before I ever suspected a thing. But now, I was no longer the naive, devoted husband she thought she had deceived so effortlessly. I was watching her, studying her, memorizing her every move, her every excuse, her every slip-up that she didn't think twice about before. The hardest part of it all was pretending. Pretending that my heart wasn't shattering into pieces every time she kissed me goodnight. Pretending that I wasn't suffocating in rage every time she smiled at me with those same lips she had used to betray me. Pretending that I didn't know about the hidden messages, the secret calls, the stolen moments behind my back. But I knew. And the more I watched, the more I understood one undeniable truth. She wasn't sorry. She didn't regret a thing because, in her mind, I was still in the dark, still the same clueless fool she had been playing all along. And that's exactly what I wanted her to believe. I knew that confronting her in a moment of anger wouldn't be enough. What was a simple argument compared to the damage she had done? If I simply accused her, she would cry, she would swear it meant nothing, she would beg for forgiveness with fake tears in her eyes. No, I wasn't going to give her that easy escape. I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this like she had probably done before. I needed something far more devastating, something that would make her realize that her little game was over. And so, I started crafting a plan. For the next few days, I dug deeper than ever before. Every little detail that had once seemed insignificant suddenly became evidence, every missing puzzle piece finally fitting into place. I retrieved the deleted messages, the call logs, the receipts from places I had never been, the hidden payments she had made for hotel rooms booked under false names. I wasn't just gathering proof, I was building a case, one that she wouldn't be able to deny no matter how hard she tried. Then, I took it a step further. I reached out to the one person she never expected me to contact, her affair partner's wife. The moment I found her online, I knew she deserved to know the truth just as much as I did. After all, wasn't she living the same lie that I had been trapped in? And so, with every bit of undeniable proof in my hands, I sent her a message, laying everything out in brutal detail. I didn't know how she would react, but one thing was certain. By the time I was done, there wouldn't be a single person left in my wife's life who didn't know exactly who she was and what she had done. But I wasn't stopping there. No, I had something much bigger planned. With everything in place, I prepared for the night that would change everything, the night where she would walk into her own downfall, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit her. The stage was set, the trap was ready, and the moment she stepped into it, there would be no turning back. The evening was perfect. Too perfect. The kind of night that would make anyone believe that love was still alive, that happiness was still real, that every embrace and whispered promise meant something. The restaurant was bathed in soft, golden candlelight, the kind that painted everything in warmth, disguising even the coldest of hearts beneath its gentle glow. The air hummed with quiet conversation, the clinking of glasses, the sound of laughter, woven into the background like an invisible thread. Across from me, my wife sat with a smile that, on any other night, might have melted my heart. But tonight I knew better. Tonight, I was watching her through different eyes. She thought she had won. She thought she was celebrating another year of marriage with a husband who still adored her, a husband who had no idea that every kiss she gave him was stolen. Every "I love you," she uttered, was nothing but an echo of a lie. But she didn't know the truth. She didn't know that this wasn't just an anniversary dinner. This was her reckoning. I let her talk. Let her sip from her wine glass. Let her tell me about her day as if nothing had changed. It was almost amusing, really, watching her play her part so effortlessly, unaware that the script had already been rewritten without her knowing. And then, when the time was right, when the moment was perfectly sharpened like a blade ready to cut through the illusion, I leaned forward, my voice softer than it had ever been before, my eyes locking onto hers with a depth she didn't yet understand. "I have something special planned for us tonight," I murmured, watching as her smile widened, as the anticipation flickered in her gaze. "Something I've been working on for a while now." She didn't notice the shift in my tone. Not yet. She was too busy basking in the idea of being the center of attention, too absorbed in the image of a loving husband pulling off the perfect romantic surprise. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, my fingers steady, my heart pounding in a rhythm that only I could hear. With a single tap, the screen came to life. And then, as if the universe itself had been waiting for this precise moment, the restaurant's large display screen, previously flickering with soft, elegant visuals, suddenly changed. The footage played instantly, clear, undeniable, devastating. It took a second for her to process it, 1 second too long, because by the time she realized what she was looking at, by the time she recognized the bedroom, the bed, the figures moving in the dim lighting, it was already too late. The sound cut through the silence of the restaurant, like a knife. The murmurs dying down as heads turned, as eyes widened, as gasps filled the air in a symphony of collective shock. And there, frozen in place, my wife sat, her fingers gripping the edge of the table, her skin draining of color, her breath caught somewhere between horror and disbelief. Her carefully built world was collapsing around her, and for the first time, she had nowhere to run. I watched as realization dawned upon her, as the panic flooded her eyes, as she turned to me in desperation, her voice barely a whisper. This isn't not what it looks like," I interrupted, my tone sharper than steel, my smile never faltering. "No, sweetheart. It's exactly what it looks like." She looked around frantically, her breathing shallow, her hands shaking, as she saw the judgment in every gaze, the disgust in every stare, the way strangers whispered behind their hands, the way familiar faces, her friends, her family, the people she once thought would stand by her, began shifting away, severing their ties without saying a word. And then, just when she thought it couldn't get worse, when she thought she had felt the full weight of humiliation, I delivered the final blow. Without breaking eye contact, without allowing her even a second to recover, I reached into my jacket pocket and slid the manila envelope across the table. Divorce papers, signed, sealed, delivered. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. And then, in the next second, she shattered. Her voice broke, her hands trembling as she clutched the papers as if they were the last thing tethering her to reality. The restaurant's silence felt suffocating now, the weight of her own choices crashing down upon her with a force she had never prepared for, and me. I stood up, straightened my suit, placed the keys to our home on the table, and leaned in just close enough for only her to hear. "You destroyed this marriage with your own hands," I whispered, my voice even, my words final. "Now, enjoy the ruins." And with that, I walked away, without looking back, without hesitating, without giving her the satisfaction of seeing even a flicker of regret in my eyes. Because tonight, for the first time in years, I was finally free. As I stepped out of the restaurant, The cool night air wrapped around me like a long-lost friend, soothing, weightless, liberating. For the first time in years, I felt truly unburdened, as if I had shed the chains of a life built on deceit, as if every breath I took now belonged solely to me. I didn't need to look back. I didn't need to see the wreckage I had left behind, the pieces of a woman who had once smiled at me with love, but had ultimately chosen betrayal over loyalty. But that didn't mean I didn't hear it. The muffled sobs, the desperate gasps, the frantic whispers as waitstaff scrambled to usher her out, as former friends turned away in quiet disappointment, as the weight of public disgrace crashed down upon her like an unstoppable force. Her reputation destroyed. Her carefully curated lies shattered beyond repair. But I wasn't done yet, because humiliation was one thing. But losing everything? That was another. By the time she left the restaurant that night, she had no idea that the worst was still waiting for her. When she arrived home, she found it wasn't her home anymore. The locks had been changed. The security. Code reset. The closets emptied of her things. A single suitcase sat outside the door, packed with only what she came into this marriage with, which in reality was nothing. She had underestimated me. She thought she had played the perfect game, never realizing that I had rewritten the rules before she even knew the game had begun. Bank accounts, already separated, joint assets, already transferred, her affair partner, already exposed, to his wife, to his employer, to everyone who mattered in his world, and just as I had predicted, he wasn't the man she thought he was. The moment he realized that everything was unraveling, he did what all cowards do. He ran, blocked her, ignored her calls, disappeared as if she had never existed. And now she was truly alone. No husband, no lover. No home, no money, no sympathy. Just an empty street, a suitcase filled with regret, and the realization that the man she betrayed was the only one who had ever truly loved her. But love doesn't survive betrayal. I watched from a distance as she sank to her knees, her hands gripping her hair, her body shaking as reality crashed over her in relentless waves. This wasn't just karma. This was justice. This was the price of deception. And me? I walked away, without bitterness, without second-guessing, without even the faintest whisper of hesitation. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I was finally at peace.